Hey guys, it's Christine, also known as Ivy Windsor here. Thank you, as always, for tuning into another video. Today I'm going to be talking about going to Disney World solo. So, for those of you who have seen my past videos, I went to Disney solo in February. And beforehand, I did a whole itinerary video about what I was planning to do solo and what my days were going to look like. The trip is only 3 days long, and this was my 12th time at Disney World, so I'm definitely a veteran. This isn't something new to me. I think that to do Disney solo as a new experience is definitely something that can be done. I just know that for myself, especially to have the guts to go somewhere solo and travel solo, it made sense for me to go to Disney because I have been so many times before, because I know it so well. So I figured if there was any place that I'm going to be really comfortable outside of my own home of New York City, it would be Disney World. And so I just picked up and I did it, and I took a quick 3-day trip all by myself. There was one day where I did meet up with some cast member friends the first day, but I didn't actually meet up with them until about 4 p.m. So most of that day was solo. And otherwise, my other 2 days were completely solo. And some people thought I was a little crazy that I was doing this. Some people thought I was really brave that I was doing this. And some people just thought it was overall super exciting. I don't think that it is a brave thing. Maybe I thought that it was beforehand because I, believe it or not, can be a little bit of an introvert. I know, right? Who knew? But in the way that like being by myself is difficult for me, and I feel worried that people are gonna notice, and that either people are gonna want to talk to me and it's gonna be awkward, or that people are just gonna like totally notice that I'm by myself and it makes me feel awkward. And I always seem to be the person who thinks that I'll have a better time with somebody else. I've never been to the movies alone. I've never dined alone, well, before Disney. And I don't tend to do a lot of things alone because I always feel like I need someone with me. But I can say that coming out of this trip, that has completely changed. Like, I'm about to go to a movie tomorrow alone, which is something that I've never done. But I realize that I can do it. I have the ability to do it. There's no reason why I shouldn't or can't. And so I will say that this trip has really given me the confidence to do things like that, but also the ability to just enjoy myself, to just really enjoy my own company. So I want to get right to it and talk about the top 5 tips that I have if you're thinking about going to Disney World, Disneyland, or really I guess this could apply to almost any theme park, solo. So my first tip is bring something to do. That means have something to do when you're online, or, you know, sort of in that in-between on the bus or whatever it might be. Normally when we're with people, we're just chatting with our friends or family when we're online for a ride. We chat with them on the bus ride between resort and park, and, you know, that kind of like makes the time go by. But when you're by yourself, you kind of need something to do. People watching is cool. I definitely did some of that, but I had a PS Vita with me because, as you all know, I like video games. So I had that with me for when I wanted to play any games in the in-between. I actually did play quite a bit on the buses to and from the resorts, and I played a bit before Fantasmic. I was sitting there waiting about 15 to 20 minutes before the show by myself and didn't really want to get into a conversation with anyone around me. So I just whipped out my PS Vita and people kind of left me alone, and I played my games, and then before I knew it, Fantasmic was ready to go. Online, I also just used my phone. Either I was periscoping, or I was texting, or I was tweeting. I was live tweeting what was happening. I was, you know, texting my dad and sending him photos, and in general just like catching up with the outside world, but also, you know, sharing my experience with other people who couldn't be there with me. And then, of course, you know, there's also the ability to vlog. Now, some of you might not be vloggers, but I'm just saying that for myself, it was something else to do in the in-between. So sometimes I would just vlog when I was in line, or, you know, kind of just waiting around for a certain moment in the day. The next tip is take advantage of the single rider lines. Now, there are only 3 rides with single rider lines. That would be Test Track in Epcot, Rock and Roller Coaster in Hollywood Studios, and Everest in Animal Kingdom. However, I can say just from my experience that being a single person, even for other rides, is really great because sometimes they need that. You know, an odd-numbered family sits in Space Mountain, maybe, and they need a single person to fill in that next seat. And you can very luckily be that person and skip like 20 people because you are riding solo. But beyond that, the single rider lines, dedicated single rider lines for these rides, were amazing. So I had a fast pass for Rock and Roller Coaster, and I used it, but I kind of didn't even really need to. And after the fact, I decided to do the single rider line 3 times more in a row. And I actually got on the ride faster through single rider than I did even with my fast pass. And I was able to ride Rock and Roller Coaster 4 times in a row in just under an hour. I mean, granted, my body kind of didn't feel great about it afterwards, but 4 times in just under an hour, you wouldn't be able to do that with a group of people. You'd have to do that alone. So that was super awesome. And then Test Track, I didn't even use my fast pass. I can tell you, from entering the single rider line to actually getting on the ride, could not have been more than 3 to 4 minutes. It was crazy. And the wait for that was about 50 minutes at the time in the regular standby line. So I lucked out because I didn't have to use my fast pass, and you can just easily use the app and change your fast pass to something else. So then I changed it to like a Mission Space fast pass and was able to get on Test Track super quick. And if I wanted to, probably could have rode that a couple more times pretty quickly. So don't be afraid to use the single rider line. And that also just goes for like when you're in groups, you know, family, friends. There are some rides that like you can probably end up on the same coaster together. So if you do Rock and Roller Coaster, it's such a long limousine that if you and a group of 5 people decided to break up and all ride the single rider line, chances are a bunch of you would get on the same train. You might not be right up next to each other, but you'd all get on a lot faster if you did that. So consider it next time that you go, even with friends. If you guys just want to get on rides faster, just break the shelves up and just go on a single rider line. My third tip is give yourself a schedule. And I say that because, not just because, you know, Disney, you should have a schedule and like, obviously you want to have things to do and like get to parks at certain times and like get a lot done. It's not so much about that, but it's like really committing yourself to getting up and going. Because when I first arrived, I'd probably say the most awkward moments were like getting off the plane and getting online for Magical Express and realizing I'm by myself and there's all these families and friends together in groups and they're talking, and I felt weird. But like I had my day planned, like, okay, I'm going to Magic Kingdom and this is like what I want to do, and then I'm eating dinner here, and then tomorrow I'm going to, you know, Hollywood Studios or whatever it was. It just kind of makes you make a promise to yourself that you're going to hold to this schedule, that you're going to get up and you're going to go, and that you're not just kind of like hide in your hotel room and be like, oh, but what if this and what if that, and is it so awkward and whatever. Like, it's nice to have a plan and just kind of focus on that plan and stick to that plan, and it'll kind of help you ignore any other anxiety that you're having about being alone. My next tip is do things that you never do or that you haven't done in a while, because you owe nothing to nobody. There's nobody there to, you know, pull you one way or the other way. There's no people who are like, man, I don't like that ride, I don't want to go on it. Or, meeting characters is a waste of time, I don't want to wait in line for that. Or, Dapper Dan's, whatever. Do whatever you want. If you want to just slowly take in the atmosphere, do that. If you want to ride TTA a million times in a row, do that. If you want to catch all the entertainment, which is something that I did, do that. Nobody is there to pull you one way or the other. You feel no guilt of like, is this other person who I'm with having a good time? Should we be planning things around what they want to do? There's no compromises. It's just you. It is all about you. And you can have the most selfish Disney vacation you want because you just don't owe anything to anyone. So I have to say that was the best part of my trip. So really, really make sure that you do all the things that you feel like you never get to do because either people don't want to do them or you never had time or they wanted to do X over Y. Do those things. It's going to be amazing if you do the things that you really wanted to do. And my last tip is a pretty straightforward one. Just do it. Just book the trip. Just get your hotel reservation, get your tickets, make it happen, make it solid. Just do it. Don't worry about it. I booked my trip and then immediately had anxiety because I was like, oh my god, what am I doing? I've never done this before, and oh, what if it sucks, and what if I'm lonely, and what if I'm bored, and what if people notice? Nobody noticed I was by myself. They may have sort of saw me sitting by myself at a table in a restaurant, but you know what? Nobody knows why. I could have been eating lunch and maybe the rest of my party wanted to do a ride, or maybe I was eating and waiting for someone to get to the park. They don't know that you were definitely alone for your whole trip, and honestly, they probably don't care, and neither should you. Nobody is going to focus on you. Cast members definitely are really nice to you, but they were never overly nice. They never made me feel awkward or like they were trying to make up for the fact that I was alone. I'm sure they see people there solo all the time. I'm sure there are fellow cast members who, like, on their time off, go into the parks, maybe by themselves, to just, like, do what they want to do, or shop, or eat, or whatever it is. I'm sure they see solo travelers all the time. They're not going to single you out or make you feel weird. And honestly, it was the best Disney trip that I have had in years because I really got to do everything I wanted to do. And I got to slow down and enjoy the magic in a very personal way that was just new and different and actually a little bit more emotional to me. I found myself having more emotional reactions to things in the parks than I normally do to other people. One, because maybe you're like, oh god, am I crying during wishes in front of my friends? That's so embarrassing. But also because there was no outside distractions or like conversation that I'm being distracted by. I was just in the moment. I was as in the moment as you possibly could be. And that moment was beautiful, you guys. So just do it. Just make the reservations, hold yourself to it, go down there. I promise you that while the first couple of hours might be a little weird to you, you are gonna forget about all that anxiety like as soon as you hit the parks and as soon as you see the castle or see Spaceship Earth or meet your first character. All of that anxiety is gonna melt away because you're gonna realize, like, oh my god, I get to just do whatever I want and have the best time. So I really hope that if you're thinking about having a solo trip, that you just do it, and I hope you have the best time. If you have specific questions about traveling solo that I haven't touched upon here, please let me know in the comments below, or you can tweet at me at IvyWinterYT. I would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have about my experience. And if you are often a solo traveler to the world or anywhere else, I'd love to hear about that as well. If you have interesting tips or just like fun experiences and stories to share, please share them as well, because I'm sure we could all benefit from that. Thanks so much for watching, as always, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, week, weekends, whatever it might be. That's it. Book your Disney trip. Just do it. Just go.